What is up, chefs, foodies, and students? Welcome to Everybody Knows. I'm Anders. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Today we are talking about the ingredient of grasshoppers. That's right. The scourge of my garden this year is becoming the featured ingredient. Hooray. Now, believe it or not, this ingredient originally comes from South America, about 150 million years ago. It is currently well known in cuisines around the world, generally in the tropics, but if you're investigating origins and cultures, be sure to research the time period as well, since many foods are brought to cultures from elsewhere or developed over time. Now, there are a variety of grasshopper species. This is the species that is currently eating my garden alive, and so I figured, I guess that's what I'm growing. I might as well taste one. And yes, these are real. I basically have cleaned them of their heads and larger legs. I gave them a wash, and then I oiled and salted and roasted them. And so they have received no other flavoring of any kind other than just a canola oil and a little bit of salt in order to bring out their natural flavor. These are almost always flavored in some other way in other dishes, but this video is to get at the fundamental flavor of a grasshopper if there is one. I will say, opening the container earlier, I definitely got a whiff, and I'm getting one now that I think, and this is just gonna sound so cliche, but is kind of grassy. I think there's definitely like an insect quality to it. I've had cricket flour before, and this sort of has a shared similarity to that. It definitely smells just like a bug that's been cooked. I don't really know. There is sort of a novelty to the smell of insects as they cook, and so that's present. In terms of grasshopper specific, I think it might be that grassiness that is sort of almost like hay or straw, like just sort of a dry grass sort of smell. But I think to really get at the aroma, we're gonna have to eat one. You knew it was coming, and I'm not a chicken, but I will eat a grasshopper. I have before, it's not a huge deal for me. My wife, on the other hand, hard pass. So, texture is very much like kind of stale popcorn. I'm sure it would have a much better crunch if I had like deep fried it and it was fresh. These aren't exactly fresh. Kind of a dry mealiness. This is all texture. There's something I'm getting. I think it's dry grass. I'm gonna place my bet on like hay or straw. It's almost towards grainy, but not quite. And that's pretty much it. Definitely some exoskeleton leavings behind. But otherwise, not too much to write home about, actually. Sorry. Let's take a look at our universal aroma wheel and see where grasshoppers land within it. If we have a look at the wheel, we're looking at the category of meaty, right here. And right at the bottom, as we get closer to marine, we see a whole insect and arachnid subcategory. So here we are within insect and arachnid. We come over here and we see there's an insect category, and lo and behold, we have locust/grasshopper, and that is right in between some of the larvas and grubs, and then in between the arachnids, tarantulas, scorpions, etc. We also have ant and termite right in that neighborhood, so I think this is generally pretty accurate. Grubs and snails are kind of a tricky one to place, because if you think about it, we go from things that don't have exoskeletons to things that do have exoskeletons, and that maintains all the way through crustaceans. And so there are some overlapping qualities in things that have exoskeletons, but it's a hard kind of transition to go from reptile and amphibian directly into insect, and so I think grub slash snail was the attempt at that. I could also see potentially, you know, if this were two-dimensional instead of one-dimensional, we could have grubs and snails start to get closer to marine snails and oysters and such. So it's a little bit complicated, but I do think for being one-dimensional, this is not a bad way to go. If you disagree, let me know. I would love to hear from you. Again, the aroma is not that strong. I noticed more of an aroma when I was cleaning them and I was taking out their guts that had that like a really strong fresh grass kind of smell. I think maybe that was something to do with either part of their digestive system or what they've been eating. I'm not quite sure, but that sort of muted down into what we have here in the dried or baked version. I think you would need to add more ingredients to really enjoy these. There's not much going on their own, and the texture might be off-putting if you're not used to eating bugs. It's an ingredient that, you know, maybe gets some attention, and then you eat one and you're like, oh, yeah, not much going on. So as you use these, consider that making them into a flour could be great, or adding them into another mix of things with other flavors going on. But otherwise, they're kind of not a great standalone ingredient in my mind. They need a little bit more flavor to really shine, I think. If you're going to feature them, if you're going to say these are grasshoppers, you're going to have to add a few more aromatic ingredients in order to just make them more enjoyable as an experience. And if you just want to incorporate them for protein, I think they can disappear into either a blend or a pulverization or something like that, and that would be fine too. Okay, I will be completely amazed if the flavor Bible has grasshoppers in it. Okay, we got nothing. I would say that could be a reflection of cultural bias. It also could be a reflection that it's almost completely bland, and so in terms of pairing, it's kind of like you can give it whatever you want. If it is cultural bias, I think as you get more into the tropical region of the planet, you start seeing more bugs used as food, and I will say it's one of the smartest ways to consume protein because the return ratio in terms of like energy in and protein out, bugs kind of kill it because they just eat all of our waste and they produce protein, and so it's a pretty fantastic source of protein. However, a lot of people, at least in the Western world, are kind of put off by bugs in general, let alone eating them. So maybe it didn't go into the book for that reason too. One last note, as I was cleaning these, I took the head and body off of one that had an unbelievable amount of worm parasites inside. And there is a video of it that I may or may not link or send you if you want to see it. It is absolutely revolting. To the point of, if you are going to go out and harvest grasshoppers, make sure that you cook them to the point where any potential parasites that could get inside of you die. And we're talking like 200 degrees for 5 to 10 minutes. That should do it. These baked at 325, like if you deep fry it till they're golden brown, you're good. I think I baked these at 350 for 20 minutes or something. I was going by color, and you can see in the video how beautifully they actually like reddened, almost like a lobster would. And so thoroughly cook and clean your grasshoppers if you're going to go find your own. That about wraps it up. Here's what I want you to do. Think about this ingredient as you cook or eat, as well as the words that we use to describe it. Have you used this ingredient successfully and you made it and you were like, oh my God, that was amazing. What did you make? Do you like this aroma? Why or why not? And finally, do you agree or disagree with what I've shared with you today? Any of the answers to those questions, put them in the comments. I would love to read them. I hope this video made sense and got you thinking about the aroma of grasshoppers as an ingredient. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to help me get an ingredient to feature in a video, send me an email or a private message. If you would like to join the food aroma nerdery, feel free to subscribe and you'll see all my latest vids. And if you would like a large poster or a digital copy of the universal aroma wheel that I built, go ahead and take a look in the description for links. Thanks so much. Bye.